Ever wonder what a Friday evening looks like in Peoria? Well, there you go. Shannon Drayer here after the first go through of the rotation by the Mariners in Cactus League play. We are up and running playing games. It has been an interesting week on a lot of fronts. I will give you some thoughts as my notes start to blow away right here. Of course, we had the big news of the day. Matt Brash, we've been very concerned about him. We'll get to that in just 1 second. We saw Brian Wu pitch today. I've got some thoughts about that I think are important to keep in mind as we go forward this year. It's been some fun in the morning here in Peoria that's kind of been unlike anything I've seen here, and it's been good for the club. And of course, there are some, I think now, some position battles that we didn't have earlier, and we'll cover that. So let's get to it. Some thoughts. Start with what we saw over at Salt River Fields today. And I was going to talk about Brian Wu today, regardless of the outcome in his game. He did give up some runs. And I think it's important to stress that any spring training game you don't put too much into. The first spring training of the game of the year, you don't put anything into other than guys healthy. And I think it's really worth noting he was throwing 97, which was great to see. The thing that I want to get across about Brian Wu is we have become, I think spoiled is a good word for it, maybe accustomed to seeing some pretty incredible starting pitching come up from the minor leagues. And I think that you kind of think it's just going to continue. And there are reasons that it has happened. We've had some very high draft picks, some very well-acclaimed players, and it's played out very well for them. Logan Gilbert comes up and is quite the talent. George Kirby, his game almost seamlessly transfers to the bigs, which honestly, I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that, or at least for in some time see anything like that from him. And then Bryce Miller, who you're thinking that maybe you're going to start taking the foot off the gas with these young pitchers, and he really impressed, particularly in his first 5 starts when it was just about the stuff. The league figured him out a little bit, gave him some things to work on, but very, very special stuff there. So Brian Wu, you're wondering what is going to come next, and what came next is a very inexperienced pitcher. Brian Wu has not pitched very much, period. I'm not just talking about in the minors before he came up, but Brian Wu converted to pitcher as a junior in high school. In college, he had single-digit starts. He did not even make 10 starts in college. Gets to the big leagues, there's COVID season to deal with, and also just getting some starts under his belt. He arrived in the big leagues with 41 starts, period. Between minor leagues, college, some summer ball, some fall ball, 41 starts. Threw as a starter 231 innings in the minors and fall ball and summer ball before he got the call up. 231 innings. It's not a lot. I think because he didn't have that big college career that the others had and really didn't pitch much in high school either, he's at a totally different spot when any of the other 3 came up. And the Mariners are well aware of it. They're also well aware he has got a special fastball. This is not somebody who was here as an accident. Did he get up to the big leagues quicker than expected? Oh yeah. Was it because of circumstance? Absolutely. It was early. But when you've got 4 other guys that are doing what they're doing, you now can afford to have that 5th starter that you bring along as the young guy, as the 5th starter. Scott Service this morning said that kind of probably will not see him in games as long early on, that he's still kind of in a place where they want to get him success and then kind of get him out of a ball game. But the stuff is there. He's a tremendous athlete on top of everything else. So I think the future is very, very bright for Brian Wu. But don't be surprised if you see them handle him a little bit different. And that was great to hear this morning because, just looking at where he's come from and the little experience that he has had, I think that's very important. Okay, the Matt Brash news, and this, I don't know, maybe stunning is the right word. It was stunning to hear this morning when Justin Hollander walked into the media room with the news that perhaps we have all been dreading, and told us that after consultation with Mariners doctor and Dr. Meister, well-known, well-renowned surgeon, the consensus is he's dealing with elbow inflammation. All right. He has been undergoing treatment and rehab for that. He's been shut down and, doing tireless work on him to get him back out on the field. And he's got the all clear to start throwing on Tuesday. So we will see where that goes. Now, Scott Service, and I think he put this well, he said, we're not out of the woods yet. We don't know why there was inflammation in his elbow. The MRI showed what they've seen in recent MRIs from Matt Brash. So there was nothing out of the ordinary for Matt Brash in his test, indicating he hasn't done anything to it recently. Could be just really maybe ramping up a little bit extra when he got here. We don't know. But what you want to see next is you want to see him go out there and throw and have no issues afterwards. And when he gets to the mound, throw from the mound, no issues after that. I think it's going to be a little while before I'm not holding my breath on this one, only because he's so critical to what they do. Any reliever is important to this group. What he has done the last 2 years, absolutely spectacular. So important in that he can go in, any inning, any situation, get an out, and quite often come back and do a little bit more the next inning. I've been uneasy about the Mariners' relief or bullpen all off season. That was my primary concern, in that I always believed that when you were going to struggle to score runs, preserving those runs, saving those runs, that is absolutely precious. And up until they got Santos, they really hadn't replaced Paul Sewald. And I think we have seen that this works. This bullpen works best when you have 3 high leverage arms and you can deploy them in situations. And they ran with 2 for the last month of the season, and it didn't run as smoothly. So it was great to see Santos added. That's an exciting add to this bullpen, and all of a sudden the bullpen looked very different. If you lose one of them, it is going to hurt. And Munoz and Brash in particular, they're not replaceable. You can get multiple guys who can do some things, but you can't just replace a Matt Brash. So keeping the fingers crossed that he is going to be okay. You're not going to see him opening day. I'm sure he will start on the IL, and that's just fine. You want him back. I want him back 110%, not just 100. I want him back 110%. I don't think you mess with this, and I don't think they mess with that. They understand all of this. So we will keep an eye on where he goes with what's next, and hopefully see him with a successful throwing session on Tuesday. Other things that are going on, starting pitching, just unbelievable their first time around. When Luis Castillo went out there and you saw 97 on the second pitch that he threw, feeling pretty good about that. And especially if you remember back to last year, we had been warned. He kind of works his way into a spring training, but we were seeing 89 and 90 in his first outing. Yeah, there's a little panic there. His second outing topped out at 93. You're kind of hoping to see a little bit more. That's not what you were expecting to see, trusting that really he does ease into it. Fun to see him come out and throw 97 in his first inning. And afterwards, he said, yeah, I don't know why. I must be feeling pretty good. Okay, Luis, I'll go ahead and take that as the truth there, but that's a big change, and it nonetheless is great to see. Also great to see what we're seeing from what they call, I think, the Steckenrider bucket is what Scott Service calls it in his morning meetings. They are going to need help with the relievers. There's at least 1 spot open in the bullpen. Brash starts on the IL. 2 spots, could be more, you don't know. But the arms that they brought in, those arms that they can kind of make a tweak here, an adjustment there, and all of a sudden, boom, you've got something. They're looking good early on. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing in the coming weeks is taking a closer look at how they do it. And I think you're going to be surprised by some of the things that you hear. It's not as complicated as you might think it is. And because of that, I think that's one of the reasons why you see the results. And had some really great conversations with some of them. Got one of them with Jackson Kowar, let's get that right, Jackson Kowar, up on Seattle Sports. He's an interesting case, one of the Kansas City Royal pitchers, a little bit older. He's 27, I believe, so he might fall in a little bit more kind of the Topa category, or maybe even Sewald. Didn't have quite as much experience as either of them, but has pitched at the big league level, has had issues with command, but also has good stuff. And recently converted reliever. Last year was the first time he said he felt comfortable as a full-time reliever, and he's changed some things that he, as a result of now being in the pen and kind of letting go of some things. A really interesting conversation there. He has been impressive in his first 2 outings. Also, very much liked what we saw from Carlos Vargas in his first outing. Written a little bit about him on Seattle Sports too. Cody Bolton has impressed, as has Colin Snyder. Really need my notes. There are a lot of them, but so far so good with a number of them. A lot of them will be needed. We'll see what kind of battle we have going into the end of spring training. There's also the possibility of end of spring training roster cuts from other teams. We'll see if they come into play, but I suspect maybe not. I think the last couple of years, as they've been more competitive, you've seen less of that. So still a long ways to go, but obviously you'd like to have everybody healthy and intact in their opening day. If you don't, feeling a little bit better about what we're seeing in possible replacements. One site that we have seen in camp, I think, is going to go top 10, maybe even top 5 of my all-time favorite spring training sites. And we are talking over 20 years of covering spring trainings. The morning shoot around is a thing, and I am 100% here for it. They have got a basketball hoop that they wheel around to the back porch. They have drawn a 3-point line back there. They're having a huge, huge competition. 40 members are in the competition, representatives of the pitching group, representatives of the hitters, front office, and coaching staff. And every day, one person from each goes out and does a 3-point shooting competition. And it's on. I mean, these guys are out there competing, and it's so fun to see who's good. George Kirby is good. Logan Gilbert's surprisingly good. He works at it. He shoots hoops every day in the back when he's done with the rest of his work. Some coaches are good. Some players that you might think are good are not good. Some of the guys in the analytics department, very good. It's just been a ton of fun to watch. But perhaps the most fun is when it's over. Then a bunch of guys go out, grab basketballs, and just shoot for 5 minutes. Really, really neat to see. See a lot of smiles out there. It's always beautiful around 8 o'clock in the morning, and just a great energy and a great way to start the day. I put a bunch of videos of that up on social media. Check them out if you need a smile. Just a neat thing to see, and I think they finally hit. They've had ping pong tournaments. They've had pool tournaments, all sorts of different things. I think we're going to see the hoops stay, and yeah, there is a nod to Pete Carroll on that one. No question about it. So I think that's about going to do it for us for this week. Again, next week there's going to be a lot to look for starting on the health front. Luis Urias, we didn't talk about him. He started throwing in drills today. That's the first time. He's DH'd a couple of times, but they need to get him on third base. They need him to be able to make the throws, and he is hopefully getting closer to that. We're hoping to see again, Matt Brash throw on Tuesday. Hopefully by Tuesday, might we see Santos back on the mound? I think there's a possibility we are getting closer to that as well. Getting ready to see Emerson Hancock tomorrow. And I'll go ahead and say this. Scott Service was teasing the performance that we could see. He said, if things go the way I think they are, you're going to have a lot of questions after that game. Buzz is Hancock has really added to the velocity. I think there have been some 97s and 98s in the bullpen. We'll see what that looks like. Is there anything else? Well, just going to have to kind of watch and see what happens tomorrow. Never a dull moment around here. And hey, the more arms, the merrier. That's going to do it for now. You can, of course, catch all of our stuff on Seattle Sports. And I do, if you haven't, go back and take a look at all of the interviews that Brock and Salk did this week. They got everyone, and a lot of guys were candid about a lot of different topics. They're also right here on YouTube. You're going to want to check that out. Of course, follow on seattlesports.com, all sorts of stories, and on social media, Shannon Drayer on Twitter. We'll catch you next week.